Man, I feel like every time we start talking about these kinds of things, I always give some sort of an apology at the beginning of the video, and I'm going to do the same thing here. Mostly because when it comes to the Detroit Red Wings, I feel like the past few videos we've been making that are literally about the team have not really been about the team. And I say that because the past two videos in the Detroit Red Wings playlist on this YouTube channel have been videos about how the team got smoked by Patrik Laine and the Montreal Canadiens. So I apologize for that, for not giving any actual Detroit Red Wings substantiated content out there on the YouTube channel. But hey man, the Patrik Laine story has been so big, and it's been so fantastic for people in Montreal, and plus those videos got a lot of views, so I don't really regret it. But anyways, today what we're doing is talking about just a few Red Wings news and notes sprinkled in here and there, some kind of eye-opening, some very, very bad. And it all comes to us in the form of an article published on freep.com, the Detroit Free Press, and our other big story comes to us in the form of an AHL website post-game box score. Lots of stuff going on here with the Detroit Red Wings that are interesting to talk about, starting out with some comments made by Moritz Seider. I'll leave a link in the description to this article. It was published earlier this morning by Helene St. James. Detroit Red Wings Moritz Seider, we can all agree we are not fulfilling expectations. This is a message to the fans from Mo, and it's a pretty dire one. The article talks about how the Red Wings are hosting the St. Louis Blues today, and you have to avoid the standings as much as possible, Moritz Seider said, after Saturday's 5-1 loss against Montreal. You have to concentrate on the daily work and doing the little things right. But there's always a big picture, and we can all agree we're not fulfilling expectations right now that we are hoping for. And I think, firstly, it's good that there is this acknowledgement that the Wings had expectations this year. No matter how right or wrong it is to have these kinds of expectations for the team heading into this particular season, they were gonna be there. Like, we can't go out there and deny it, mostly because from last season they were so close, just literally a point away from making the playoffs. We all remember the John Tortorella pulling the goalie and giving Washington that regulation win, which kind of sealed the fate of Detroit. We remember everything that happened just a few months ago. The Wings were in a really tight playoff race last season. And so, naturally, with guys that are generally younger, you've got Seider, Raymond, you've got DeBrincat, you've got Edvinsson, who unfortunately has not been in the lineup the past little while. You've got younger guys who are supposed to be getting better. You've got older veteran guys that are coming off of, let's just say, very big changes in their lives, like Patrick Kane. He's got this surgery. Okay, he looked fantastic in his first year after the surgery. Now, what's he going to do with 2 years? He's going to be even better, right? And you got Tarasenko, and you have all these other guys that are going to be good, and Tyler Mott was brought in, right? So there was a realistic idea for expectations in the Detroit fan base. And for Seider to go out there and acknowledge, hey, we're not living up to those expectations right now, we're not winning, things are looking pretty down bad for us, we're kind of in this state of limbo, and you have to avoid looking at the standings, that ultimately is just the only way you're going to be able to survive, I feel. If you're a Wings fan who has been so invested in this story, in these prospects, in this particular group of guys, and who was hoping that they would go up. They would go up from where they were last year. Because now, you have no choice but to just avoid it. Ignorance is bliss after all, and just go about your day-to-day lives, and remember that hockey is not technically life. And I'm saying this mostly from the POV of a fan who is not really too invested into the story, and I say that in the kindest way possible, because of course, y'all recognize that I am a Canucks and a Habs fan first, before a Red Wings fan, so for me, I've got two other teams to cheer for. One of them's doing pretty alright, the other sucks, so all of my capacity to be upset about a hockey team is all tied up into one of those franchises, and it's not the one in red, I'll say that for sure. But for the Detroit Red Wings faithful, obviously, this is a pretty big wake-up call, I would say. Moritz Seider giving reason to sort of turn a blind eye to what's going on in reality. And there are some other comments that go out there and talk about extra things from the Red Wings. Joe Veleno said this: we have to start by realizing what kind of team do we want to be this year. We're winning, we're losing, we're winning, we're losing. We just have to really put our right foot down and really look at what team we want to be and how we want to play. We still have to figure that out. That's a pretty damning comment, honestly. And I think if you go by it verbatim, just recognizing the message that's being sent here, the Wings are kind of directionless at the moment. And whether or not that's the coaching staff, it's Derek Lalonde and the way he wants this team to be coached, whether it's the players itself, whether or not it's the guys that are underperforming or overperforming or whatever, whether it's Stevie Y for putting this team together, it all depends on what your perspective is. And I think ultimately this is a pretty bad update because some of the Wings players are acknowledging the very apparent faults on the team. Now, shifting gears a little bit from the interviews and the post-game coverage from last game, I wanted to talk about a game that happened last week in the Grand Rapids Griffins, because this is really, really bad. Like, you thought it couldn't get any worse? Oh boy, it got worse. Because earlier on Friday, we had ourselves a game in the AHL between the Milwaukee Admirals and the Grand Rapids Griffins. Guess what? Milwaukee wins 6-1. And who's in net for all of these 6 goals against for Grand Rapids? Well, you guessed it, it is none other than one Ville Husso. And that is obviously not great to acknowledge. This dude has all this drama surrounding him. He's got all of this performance-related criticism thrown his way in the Detroit Red Wings system. Oh, he sucks, he's this, he's that. And then bam! He stinks even more in the AHL. Oy, oy, oy. That's not a good game at all for the one and only Ville Husso. And I think a lot of people, myself included, were kind of taken aback by this, right? Like, we had no idea that this was even possible for a guy like Ville Husso, who goes out there in an AHL game and posts up a whopping, what's the actual number here? 21 saves on 27 shots against, so let's do 21 divvy 27. That's a 777 save percentage. Not great. And I think for a lot of people what this indicates is that, one, Ville Husso still has a lot of work to do. 2, Ville Husso is in a spot where a lot of the prosperity he had exhibited earlier in his career is definitely not an expectation right now. And 3, the fact that we have no idea where this is going to go. Like, I mean, if you take a look at the Wings right now, they have Jack Campbell down there in Grand Rapids. They have Husso as well. Husso did play pretty well in the Grand Rapids Griffins earlier this year. Like, back in November, he was okay. 9.38 and everything in between. But in this stint right here, after getting sent down, yeah, no, the guy's got a 7.78, and that does not look all too good in the slightest. The Wings, in their own goaltending situation, Cam Talbot and Lyon have been okay. Lyon had a pretty bad few games recently, though, I will say. Not the best outing for him, especially against Montreal. But Cam Talbot has been there, doing pretty okay. So I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about where the goaltending in Detroit is going to go from here. What are your thoughts about some of these extra comments made by Moritz Seider and Joe Veleno, speaking about the expectations and the lack of an actual identity of this team? Some pretty bad news, honestly. Like, just thinking about the message that's being sent there, I don't think this is a particularly good thing. But what else are we going to talk about before the Wings play off against a decent to mid St. Louis Blues team in about an hour or so by the time this video is published on YouTube? So, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this British Roll 99, and bye.